Okay, let's unpack this. Think back to the last time you went into that fitting bay. The data monitors are humming, the sound is, perfectly crisp, and you're just dialed in, hitting great shots.
But only with one club.
Exclusively with a single 7-iron. And after, an hour of this, the fitter hands you a sheet and says, that's it. We found the specs for your entire set.
From the 4-iron all the way down to the pitching wedge, it's the industry ritual.
It is.
It's just become completely normalized because, frankly, it's efficient, it's scalable.
Exactly. But today, our deep dive, it really challenges that ritual entirely. Our source material argues that this common practice, this convenient shortcut, really is fundamentally failing golfers.
And it fails them because it assumes a uniformity where, physics, biomechanics, performance, they all demand precision.
So the whole problem is built on one big assumption.
It is. The assumption is if the middle of the set, that 7-iron, works perfectly, then the two extremes, the long irons and the short irons, they must just follow suit.
But that ignores everything about how they're actually designed.
It ignores the reality that a set of irons isn't a stack of identical clubs with different stickers. They are precision instruments, and each one has a wildly different job to do.
So the core thesis we're diving into is this. One club iron fitting is just an estimation. It's not verification.
It's a compromise.
It's
a necessary one for commercial reasons, maybe, but it's not a best practice.
And it's creating these hidden performance problems that you, the golfer, probably never connect back to that fitting bay.
It's an uncomfortable truth, but a necessary one if you've ever wondered why your longest and shortest irons sometimes feel like strangers in your bag.
Okay, let's start with the standard itself. We test a single iron, almost always the 7-iron, and we extrapolate why the 7-iron. The sources confirm it's a pretty terrible representative for the whole set.
Well, it's chosen because it sits right in the middle. It's the most forgiving club to test. It's the Goldilocks club.
Not too hot, not too cold.
Exactly. It's not too long like the 4-iron, where just getting it in the air can be tough for people. And it's not a short iron, where it's all about precision and spin.
So the 7-iron just gives the prettiest data in the fitting day.
It usually does. It gives you consistent, satisfying numbers, which makes the sale much, much easier.
Okay, but hold on. Most golfers probably feel like they only care about their mid-irons. You hit your 7-iron way more than your 4-iron. So isn't it logical to optimize for the club you use the most?
That's a very common thought process, and it sounds logical, but golf is a game of precision. It's not a game of averages.
Right.
If you optimize only for the 7-iron, you're pretty much guaranteeing that you de-optimize the 4-iron and the pitching wedge. They all have different jobs. The 4-iron needs launch and carry. The 7-iron is the balance. And the wedge needs spin, trajectory control, stopping power.
You can't get all three of those from one single spec.
You can't. It's like you wouldn't expect a racing tire to behave like an off-road tire. But we're expecting a 4-iron to share the same performance DNA as a wedge.
All because the 7-iron test went well.
Exactly. And the data consistently shows performance failures at those edges. Expecting one club to represent all those functions just ignores basic physics.
So let's dig a bit deeper into the actual mechanics here. A fitting might adjust for loft and length based on that 7-iron, but what are the really crucial variables that a single club fitting just can't see?
Yeah, we have to look beyond the club head and see how you interact with each club. As the shaft gets longer, your swing length, your tempo, it all changes.
And your ball position moves too.
Your ball position shifts forward, and critically, your angle of attack, your AOA, changes.
Can you elaborate on that angle of attack shift? Because I think a lot of us know the term, but we might not realize how much it actually changes from club to club.
Absolutely. So with a long iron, a 4-iron, your goal is a sweeping motion, a shallow or even a slightly ascending angle of attack.
To get it airborne.
To maximize launch and distance and to avoid that spin-killing chunky contact. But for a pitching wedge, you want the opposite. You want a steeper descending AOA to create friction and maximize spin.
And the 7-iron fitting just assumes something in the middle.
It assumes a middle ground AOA that really it optimizes neither extreme. So you get poor turf interaction with your long iron and you get less spin consistency with your short irons.
So that perfect rhythm you found with the 7-iron is actually a compromise.
It is.
If you try to replicate it with a 4-iron, you won't get enough launch. And with a wedge, you won't get the control.
Precisely. We adapt our swing to the club in our hands, whether we realize it or not. The fitting fails when it assumes those adaptations are uniform.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just how we swing them, it's how they are actually built. The sources go into detail about these complex internal engineering changes that you just can't see.
Right, because modern sets are designed to look identical. And that visual consistency is, it's marketing genius, but it hides some major functional compromises.
Hmm.
Internally, the design is changing dramatically. Let's just talk about two things: the center of mass, or COM, and the sole geometry.
Okay, let's start with the center of mass. How does that shift, and why does that even matter?
So in a long iron, like a 4-iron,
Hmm.
you want the COM to be very deep and very low.
To help it launch.
Exactly. It makes it easier to get the ball airborne. But as you move into the short irons, that COM has to move progressively higher and closer to the center of the face.
Why?
Because if you keep that deep, low COM from a 4-iron and put it in a pitching wedge, you absolutely kill your spin performance and your control. You get all sorts of weird gear effect that can spray the ball left or right.
So what helps your long iron fly straight and high is actually bad for your wedge.
Actively detrimental.
Yeah.
Now think of the sole geometry.
The part that hits the ground.
Right. A long iron has a narrow sole, less bounce to cut through the turf. But a wedge needs a wider sole, often with high bounce, to work from the rough or sand. The 7-iron sole is just an average, a compromise for a perfect lie in a fitting bay, not for the real world.
So the fact they all look the same basically guarantees that there are compromises built in. Your 4-iron might not have the launch assist it needs, and your wedge might not have the spin, all for a unified look.
That's the silent failure we're talking about. You get inconsistent launch, unpredictable spin, and it only becomes obvious when you're on the course trying to hit a real shot.
Okay, so if the performance failure is so clear from an engineering standpoint, let's pivot. Why does this practice persist? Why is this flawed approach still standard procedure?
Now we're stepping away from the physics and into the business side of things. It's driven by commercial logistics and, honestly, consumer psychology. Golfers buy sets.
The word itself implies they're uniform.
Exactly. And if that 7-iron feels great, the psychological assumption is that the rest of the set will feel just as tailored.
And for the fitter, it's a throughput issue.
It is a truly comprehensive iron fitting, where you test a 4-iron, a 7-iron, and a pitching wedge that could take 3 hours.
Wow.
A single club fitting takes an hour. The fitter is incentivized to maximize fittings per day, and the customer is often only willing to pay for or spend the time on that shorter session. Efficiency has just churched. It's overtaken optimization.
So the system is structured around the path of least resistance.
Sure.
Everybody involved.
It is. And look, the source material is clear that no major manufacturer would argue that single club fitting is the ideal way. They all know it's a shortcut. The system just persists because consumers have been conditioned to believe that modern engineering will somehow make up for what isn't being measured. You trust the math to fill in the gaps.
Which brings us to the real-world consequence, the one that every golfer feels but almost never connects back to the fitting. Terrible gapping.
Gapping inconsistency is the most common and yet the least discussed problem from all this. When you only test the 7-iron, your distance gaps for the rest of the set are just assumed based on loft. They are not verified with actual ball flight.
So you're out there, you're standing over a tricky yardage, and you realize you don't really have the right club. Can you give a concrete example of what that looks like?
Sure. Let's say you've got 160 yards to the pin. You know your perfectly fit 7-iron goes 155, and your 6-iron goes 170.
A 15-yard gap.
A 15-yard gap. But you needed a club for 160. That uncertainty, that sort of no man's land distance, that's the direct result of a system that didn't verify the gaps.
So you end up trying to hit a hard 7-iron or an easy 6-iron.
And you introduce human error because the equipment didn't give you a predictable step. It's so frustrating.
And we all just think it's a skill issue, not a fitting issue.
It's often both, but the equipment shouldn't be adding to the problem. Let's go back to that 4-iron example. Because its design was compromised to match the look of the set, maybe it launches too low, spins too little, and just falls out of the sky. It only flies 185 yards when you need it to go under 95.
A problem you would never discover hitting a 7-iron indoors.
Never. It only becomes clear when you need that club on the course, and it just fails to do its job.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material is really forcing us to redefine what a great iron set even is. It's not about one great club.
Not at all. It's about the orchestration of the whole system.
Yeah.
The true performance of an iron set is how all the clubs work together. Consistent gaps, predictable flights, reliable spin. If you're only testing one point on that curve, you are making a massive bet that the rest of the system just works, and estimation is no longer good enough.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means These performance problems, they quietly emerge and they just haunt your game.
Hmm.
You might have long irons that lose carry because they don't launch high enough, or short irons that bunch up and overlap in distance because they spin unpredictably.
Unreliable gaps that a single club test can't possibly detect.
So the takeaway here really is about empowerment.
Yes. The future of fitting won't change just because the tech improves. The tech is already here. It can test a whole set quickly.
So it's on us.
It'll change because golfers demand better standards, better questions, better testing. The system persists because we so rarely challenge the norm.
We have to stop accepting the shortcuts if we want true optimization.
Until then, the problem remains. But so does the opportunity for anyone willing to challenge that accepted wisdom and move past the easy shortcut.
So for your next fitting, consider this challenge from the source material. Don't just settle for the 7-iron. Demand to see the data from the extremes. Ask to hit the 4-iron to verify launch and carry distance. Ask to hit the pitching wedge to verify spin and how the sole interacts with the turf.
You have to test to verify your true performance gaps, not just estimate them. Demand the data for the full set. That's where performance is really won or lost. Yard, an unpredictable yard.